Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And
Roast.
I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our review of Poker Face Season 2, Episode 11. This is the second to last episode in this season. We are clearly setting up for a pretty high stakes fire finale that is going back to a lot of different stuff that we have seen over the course of this season with Beatrix. I'll be honest, I didn't really think we were going to see her again.
I didn't think we were going to see her again either, but I'm so glad that we are. I didn't know what she'd be doing now, but she's clearly in hiding, but also making cookie Instagrams, which I love.
I love that too. I mean, do I also question you're supposed to be, I don't know, witness protection, hiding? Why are you on social media, Beatrix? But I really did enjoy the setup to a lot of this. I thought this was a pretty fun case that did manage to kind of both give a cliffhanger, but also rope in a lot of different things like Alex that have been a part of the show these past couple of episodes. So it did feel like it encapsulated a lot of this season while still also kind of bringing something new to the table.
Yeah, I was hard on the Alex character in this last episode with the gym, where I just felt like she just wasn't kind of fitting in the way that I was hoping that she would. But that was all fixed in this episode. I'm completely fine with Alex now. Watching Alex and Charlie try to like paddle away on that canoe was like comedy gold.
It was really, really funny. And I think a lot of just the setup of this episode was really, really, because we all know, we've seen so many weddings on TV that know that they're just ripe with comedic potential in all of these different ways. And I think they played a lot of that really well here, whether we have this whole oyster bar business that's going on. Listen, I don't think I've ever done anything like this with oysters ever. I don't even know if I've ever had an oyster, if I'm being totally honest.
No, I haven't.
And
It's
so,
just too slimy for me.
yeah, they're just slimy. I don't know, but it still felt like something that was relatable enough, but also still silly. The idea that it's just like this energy drink that's being peddled around this wedding was also like completely bizarre, and yet all of it worked. Like it all felt very, very much Poker Face to me.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, they had some really great reveals about Kirby and his relationship to Beatrix, the iguana. We're going to get into some theories about him as well and who he really could be and why he's after Beatrix and everything that's happening. There was so much in this episode.
Yeah, this one's going to be really, really fun. So buckle up and be sure to hit that subscribe button because, yeah, we're going to be here talking all about the Poker Face finale. I would not be surprised if there is some sort of cliffhanger at the end of that. I think there's just a lot of fun stuff coming. We also have coming up here Dexter Resurrection, and then also Alien Earth. This is going to be a very fun action-packed summer, and we want you guys to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So hit that subscribe button. It really helps us here at the channel. And over on our Patreon, you can get more video reviews over there that are exclusive just to our Patreon. So we'll leave you a link below if you want to join that.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that.
All right. Everybody put on your tinfoil hats.
All right.
So Justin Theroux's character of Todd, the iguana, who is the deadliest assassin in the world, which is a joke because it's John Wick and we all know that.
All right.
However, here we have this faceless guy who's, comes up and steals the identity of Todd to go to this wedding because he's trying to get to Beatrix. We never see what this iguana actually looks like. So my tinfoil hat theory is that this person is actually Good Buddy. And I know that the voices are different, but if he's able to change his face and look like a completely different person, I feel like he's able to change his voice in that way as well. There's a reason that we haven't seen Good Buddy this whole time. And it's Steve Buscemi, who is an icon, a huge actor. You're going to have him and he's just going to be a voice this entire time. He's just been too friendly. Hey man, how's it going? Let's get to know you a little bit. Let's dig in a little deeper with Charlie. Hey, you want to stay at my apartment? No problem. You can stay there. It gives him an opportunity to kind of dig in deeper, get to follow her around more, figure out more about her so that he can use her to get to Beatrix because the iguana is using her to get to Beatrix.
I completely agree with this. Like I felt very similar watching the end of this where it's just sort of like, okay, so let's just all think about this for a moment. You're gonna introduce Good Buddy right after the whole saga with Beatrix ends earlier this season. It's like the timing of that is interesting in itself, where
Yeah.
it is like, okay, why are we bringing this up now? How is Good Buddy staying in contact with her? Oh, he's making sure he keeps, up to date on everything going on with her. Oh, he's letting her stay at one of his places. And then who knows? Maybe he has some sort of surveillance there. Is Charlie really checking all of these things? If she trusts Good Buddy a lot at that point, it just feels like everything is lining up. And yeah, to dive in more to what you were saying about changing his voice, if this guy is the most dangerous assassin in the
Mhm.
world, shouldn't he be capable of that? Like, shouldn't you be, I know the name is Iguana, but shouldn't you
Yeah.
be a chameleon and just sort of constantly sort of blend in to your surroundings? It
Mhm.
all just makes perfect sense that they're establishing all this. They
Mhm.
built up Good Buddy because they want the end reveal to be exciting, right? And if the iguana just turns out to be someone random, like, it's only gonna work that way if the someone random is, I don't know, like Fred Armisen, like somebody who Natasha Lyonne like has worked with a lot in the past. Otherwise, the only person that makes sense is Steve Buscemi, just because we've been hearing his voice all season.
Yeah, is Steve Buscemi just gonna roll out of bed to do this job where all he is a voice? He doesn't need to do that.
No, he doesn't need to do that. But to just talk a little bit about irony and guest stars in this episode, first and foremost, Haley Joel Osment, I am seeing dead people in this episode, and the dead person is you. I'm sorry it happened to you. Also, Justin Theroux, who you mentioned, he's playing an assassin. One of my favorite
Yep.
episodes of TV of all time is the Leftovers episode, International Assassin. I'm just glad to see Justin back in this environment. I thought he was good, and I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on with that eye stuff, but as someone who has had major right eye problems over the course of my life, it kind of was relatable and freaked me out.
Yeah, it was such a good role. I mean, it was so cool to see him. I mean, Justin's such a huge star. To see him on this show was really cool. And in a role like this is always awesome. I mean, he's just so slick, right?
Yeah, he's so slick, and I think that's what made this whole idea so believable that, okay, whoever the iguana is, well, he obviously knows that, all right, this is a perfect person to be to sort of blend in here. Someone who is kind of classically handsome, suave, can sort of be a part of this environment. Nobody's going to really ask too many questions about him.
Yeah, especially with who Todd was, who was like a teacher to Kirby, who's, getting married, who is Beatrix's son, right? So he's picked a very unassuming person that while, yeah, he's a handsome guy, he's just a teacher
Yeah.
who, taught Kirby back in the day kind of thing. He is somebody that no one's really going to look at.
Yeah.
He's just a guest there.
Yeah, he's just a guest there, but we sort of see everything unravel pretty quickly, which eventually leads to Alex being in pretty big trouble, where it looks like she's framed and she's set up for everything. We
Mhm.
also have the bride freaking out, which I very much enjoyed. And as enjoyable and good as the first half of this episode was, like, I'm not going to say this is like a full beef hat thing, but it's something that's been in my mind these past few episodes is, are we spending too much time with the setup before we're getting Charlie into some of these episodes? Because it does kind of feel like she's only been in half of like the last few episodes.
It feels like this episode, she was barely in it at all. Like to me, felt like there was way more Alex in this than there was of Charlie at all. And especially with this seemingly leading to where it has, which is that the whole purpose of the iguana being at this wedding to kill Kirby, who is, the son of Beatrix, was to draw out Charlie so Charlie would get to Beatrix, because it's all been set up now that Alex is taking the fall for this. That was going to pull Beatrix out, where she was going to get the 5 families together to be like, okay, this woman has killed my son. Let's all get together and let's deal with her. And it would bring her out of hiding. But instead, it's bringing Charlie to the point that she is basically leading the iguana right to Beatrix. But she's barely in this episode.
I do feel like they've had so much fun with the guest stars, and I understand why. They've had some great ones this season
Yeah.
where they've just sort of been like, okay, we want to give them plenty of time to cook. But I think at the same time, they have to remember this is a mystery show, and a part of the fun of a mystery show
Mhm.
is actually giving Charlie time to figure it out. And I think that at times this season she hasn't had enough time, and really with this episode, as fun as a lot of it was just okay, we just need to set this up so that eventually we're getting on this chase where ultimately Charlie's going to end up leading Todd slash the iguana all the way up to Beatrix, and that's where everything is really going to hit the fan.
Yeah, and that was the problem for this episode in particular for me, was that Charlie was able to put things together so fast because there just wasn't enough time for her. And I would have appreciated then maybe that they just made this episode longer.
Yeah.
Like there just needed to be there needed to be time for the setup, because this is clearly going to be a two-parter at this point, for us to get to know the iguana, what's going on, why he's hit Kirby, that it's all about Beatrix, everything with Alex. But it was put together so fast for Charlie because there just wasn't enough time for her.
No.
And what really cooks with this show is watching her be able to pull things out in a slower way and put them together in her mind. And that wasn't really happening here. She was able to put things together so fast.
It almost felt to me, and I have no factual evidence of this, but it felt to me like they shot maybe this episode and the finale back to back, and maybe they did it in such a way that there wasn't a lot of time for Natasha to be in this episode because she's going to be in so much of the finale. Maybe
She better be.
Yeah, like it just feels like she's got to be in almost all of the finale, because how do you do that story otherwise? Like she's directly leading the iguana there. So it does feel like we have to break form a little bit for the show in this last episode, unless they want to do something else really strange where they fast forward a little bit to what happens to Beatrix and then we go back in time, which they do that all the time, but I'm not sure we need that now.
We better see Steve Buscemi in this finale. Like, if he's not the iguana, I need to see him. You can't just have him be a voice for this whole season.
I feel like the writers for this show know this, and I feel like they're probably sitting back and being like, okay, we had a plan here from the very beginning, typically with a lot of our guest stars. I mean, Ray Perlman aside, I mean, she's a legend. You can't compare anybody to her anyway, but it's like, you really are only going to have to do an episode or two. How can we do this with Buscemi? Okay. We'll have him record some dialogue. That won't take too much of his time. He'll show up in the finale. Maybe he'll show up in the premiere. If he's not the iguana, and I still agree with you, I feel like he is.
I feel like he's gotta be.
Yeah, there's nothing else that makes sense unless it's a situation where the iguana is someone random, but it turns out that Steve Buscemi's also been following the iguana this whole time, and it's sort of like somebody's been following Charlie, but then somebody else has been following that person, and that person is Steve Buscemi, and he ends up being a good buddy to her and saving the day. Like, that could also be fun, but then you're also kind of raising the question of who then is playing the iguana, because that also would have to be a person that is equal to Steve Buscemi. Otherwise, it really doesn't work.
Well, here's the thing. There's two roles here that, need to kind of be figured out. Like, yeah, Justin Theroux is playing Todd at this point, but we know that this person is kind of faceless. So the iguana can be anybody, right? But who hired the iguana in the first place? Is it one of the five families? Is it somebody else? It's possible that either Steve Buscemi is going to be playing the iguana and he's actually the assassin, or he's the person who has hired the iguana and he's behind all of it, who is trying to get to Beatrix, and he's just hired the iguana to go get her.
I think the biggest piece of evidence of that is just specifically that they've set up on the show that Steve Buscemi's got some money. They haven't said necessarily that, oh, he's a billionaire, but the idea that he's got a place in New York City for Charlie to stay at.
One of his places, right? Like, when they said that, where it's like, oh, I have this apartment there that I never use. You could just stay at it. I'm like, how many apartments do you have?
Yeah.
And why do you have all these apartments?
You know how much rent is in New York City? It's like, this is something that feels like that may be a really big clue of it. I think the thing is just that they have some sort of idea that's in the works for this character. I have a hard time thinking they're going to end season 2 without giving us something there.
Yeah, for sure. And my hope is that if, let's say he's not the iguana and he's actually the person that's hired the iguana, then I'm hoping that then he has a much bigger role next season where he is sort of the overall arc of like either not chasing her down, but that there's something there with that because he would be the big bad behind the iguana.
Yeah, and I feel like it could happen because, okay, here's another tinfoil hat on top of all of this.
All right.
I know Steve Buscemi was pretty busy over the past year or so because he's playing the new principal on Wednesday season 2.
Yeah.
However, we do not know if there is a Wednesday season 3. There might very well be, but even if there is, there's no guarantee Steve Buscemi will be a part of that. Did you see what happened to the principal? No major spoilers
know.
the last season of Wednesday. So it's just like, there's a chance that's just a one season arc. And if that is the case, his schedule could open up big time for him to do a lot more over here. And it just feels like this show in particular, it's a pretty much a perennial Emmy contender just because the scripts are really solid. It's fun. There's a lot of guest actor Emmys that could go potentially to people here.
Yeah.
It just feels like something he would want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
But that is where we are coming out of this episode. And yeah, I think it's a very fun episode. There was a lot of entertaining stuff. The big problem is it's just because there's a cliffhanger, because there's not really a mystery that took a long time to solve. It's just, there's not a lot of like meat here. There's not a lot of like really intense or fascinating stuff to theorize about.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I enjoyed this episode, but this felt like table setting for the finale where all the really good meals are going to come out for us.
Well, let's all cross our fingers and hope that that good meal is coming, but be sure to let us know.
Good meal, good buddy.
Hey, all right. Let us know in the comments what you thought here. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more coverage. And yeah, you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description where we have all sorts of other great exclusive video content. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.